Hi friends, I am Uday Kandpal and I welcome you all to yet another lecture on NCERT Class 6 History Chapter 6 with fact elaboration by Uday Kandpal. The name of the chapter is New Questions and Ideas. So let's start. So new ideas and philosophies. We will talk about three major ideas that crept on after the later Vedic period. 1. It is Buddhism. 2. Upanishad. And 3. Jainism. Various people challenged the authority of the Vedas and separated them from Hinduism. They were primarily against the Brahmanism, the Varna system, and preferred to live in Ganas and Sanghas. Most of the people believed in the Vedas and took forward the Vedic culture, and many Samhitas, Upanishads, etc., were created during their time. Later, Purans also came into existence from 3rd century to 10th century AD. Buddhism. Buddha belonged to small Gana known as Sakya Gana or Shakya clan and was a Kshatriya. When he was a young man, he left the comforts of his home in search of knowledge. He wandered for several years, meeting and holding discussions with other thinkers. He finally decided to find his own path to realization and meditated for days and on an end under a peepal tree at Bodh Gaya in Bihar, where he attained enlightenment. After that, he was known as Buddha or the Wise One. He then went to Sarnath near Varanasi and where he taught for the first time. He spent his rest of his life traveling on foot till he passed away in Kushinagar. Teachings of Buddha. Buddha taught that life is full of suffering and unhappiness. This is caused because we have lots of cravings and desires which often cannot be fulfilled. Sometimes even if we get something we want, we are not satisfied and want even more. Buddha called this as thirst or tanha. He taught that this thirst can be removed by following moderation in everything. He also taught people to be kind and to respect the lives of others, including animals. He believed that results of actions of this life called karma, whether good or bad, affect us both in this life and the next. The Buddha taught in the language of common people, that is Prakrit, so everybody could understand his message. Facts about Buddha from Wikipedia. According to Buddhist tradition, Gautam was born in Lumbini, now in the modern day Nepal, and raised in Kapilvastu, which may have either in what we call present day Tilorkot, Nepal, or Piparava, India. According to Buddhist tradition, he obtained his enlightenment in Bodh Gaya cave, his first sermon in Sarnath, and died in Kushinagar. The Buddha, also known as Siddharth Gautam or Buddha Shakyamuni, was a philosopher, mendicant, meditator, spiritual teacher, and religious leader who lived in ancient India for 5th century to 4th century BCE. After Gautam became an ascetic, he went to Alarakaram, who was a teacher that taught kind of early meditation in Vesali. Alara taught Gautam Buddha meditation, especially a dhyanic state called sphere of nothingness, the Shunya. Gautam eventually equaled Alara, who could not teach him more, saying that you are the same as I am now. There is no difference between us. Stay here and take my place and teach my students with me. Gautam was not interested in staying. After leaving, Buddha found a new teacher called Uddhak Ramput. He served as founder of the world religion of Buddhism and worshipped by most Buddhist schools as the enlightened one who had transcended karma and escaped the cycle of birth and rebirth. He taught for 45 years, built a large following both monastic and lay. His teachings is based on his insight into dukh, typically translated as suffering, and the end of dukh. The state is called Nibbana or Nirvana. The Buddha taught a middle way between sensual indulgence and several asceticism found in the Indian Shraman movement. He taught spiritual path that included ethical training and meditative practices such as jhanan and mindfulness. The Buddha also critiqued the practices of Brahmin priests such as animal sacrifice. Gautam's learnings were compiled by the Buddhist communities in the suttas, which contain his discourses, and Vinay, his codes for monastic practices. Names and the titles of Buddha. In his early texts, Buddha also referred himself as Tathagat. The term is often used to mean either one who has thus gone or one who has thus come, possibly referring to the transcendental nature of the Buddha's spiritual attainment. A common list of epithets are commonly seen together in the canonical text and depict some of his spiritual qualities, like Samasambuddho, perfectly self-awakened; Vijjacharan Sampanno, like endowed with higher knowledge and ideal conduct; Sugato, well gone or well spoken; Lokvidu, knower of many worlds; Anuttaro Purisha Dhammasarathi, an excelled trainer of untrained people; Satyadeva Manussanam, teacher of gods and humans, Bhagwati, the blessed ones, Arham or Arhant, worthy of homage. Arhant is one with taints destroyed, who have lived a holy life, done what had it needs to be done, laid down the burden, reached the true goal, destroyed the letters of being, and completely liberated through final knowledge. Jinn, the conqueror. Although the term is more commonly used to name an individual who has attained liberation in the religion Jainism, it is also an alternative title for the Buddha. So we have talked a lot of names about Buddha. Now let's talk about the schools of Buddhism. In contemporary Buddhist studies, modern Buddhism is often divided into three major branches, tragic traditions or categories. The Hinyan Buddhism, also called as the Theravada Buddhism. The Theravada Buddhism, also called as the Southern Buddhism, mainly dominant in Sri Lanka and East Asia. This tradition generally focuses on the study of its main textual collection, the Pali Canon, as well as other forms of Pali literature. The Pali language is thus in lingua franca and its lingua franca and the sacred language. This tradition is sometimes denominated as part of Nikaya Buddhism, referring to the conservative Buddhist traditions in India who did not accept the Mahayana Sutra into the Tripitak collection of scriptures. It is also sometimes seen as only surviving school out of the early Buddhist schools, being derived from the Sthavir Nikaya via the Sri Lankan Mahavir tradition. Then there was East Asian, that is Mahayana, great vehicle. East Asian Buddhism, or the early Buddhism prominent in East Asia and derived from the Chinese Buddhist traditions which began to develop during the Han Dynasty. This tradition focuses on teachings found in Mahayana Sutras which were not considered canonical or authoritative in Theravada, preserved in the Chinese Buddhist canon in the classical Chinese language. There were many schools and traditions with different texts and focuses such as Zen, that is Chan, and Pure Land. Then Vajra vehicle, also known as Mantrayan, Tantric Buddhism, and Esoteric Buddhism. This category is mostly presented in the Northern Buddhism, also called Indo-Tibetan Buddhism or just the Tibetan Buddhism, but also overlaps with certain forms of East Asian Buddhism like Shingon. It is prominent in Tibet, Bhutan, and the Himalayan region, as well as in the Mongolia and the Russia Republic of Kalmykia. It is sometimes considered to be the part of broader category of Mahayana Buddhism instead of separate tradition. The main texts of the Indian Tibetan Buddhism are contained in the Kanjur and Tenjur. Besides the study of Mahayana texts, this branch emphasizes a study of Buddhist tantric materials, mainly those related to Buddhist tantras. A fourth branch, Navyan, is sometimes included as well. It is the reinterpretation of Buddhism by Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. Ambedkar was born as a Dalit or an untouchable family during the colonial era of India, studied abroad, became a Dalit leader, and announced in 1935 his intent to convert from Hinduism to Buddhism. So this is a map, data source Wikipedia for the different kinds of Buddhism that spread into India. So the red color shows the Southern Buddhism or the Theravada Buddhism. The yellow shows the Eastern Buddhism or the East Asian Mahayana Buddhism, which is in the southern Song and the Manchuria regions of the China. Then there is the green, both Eastern and Southern Buddhism with orange color. Then blue color is the Northern Indo-Tibetan, also Newari and Ajhaism. You can see near Mongolia and Indo-Tibet. Then there is both Eastern and Northern Buddhism, the green color, the upper part of Xinjiang and Tibet, and some other parts of China. Then both Southern and Northern Buddhism, you can see the Nepal region, and then Dalit Buddhism, Navyan Buddhism, that is in Maharashtra. Theravadin list of Buddhists. The Tanhakar, Pali name is Tanhakar, Sanskrit name is Krishnamkar, class is Kshatriya, birthplace is Poppawadi, parents were King Sunanda and Queen Sunanda, and Bodhiruk, tree of enlightenment is Rukkathan. Medhankar was second, Medhankar. Then his birthplace was Yaghar. His parents were Sudev and Yasodhara, and Bodhiruk or the tree of enlightenment was Kale. Then there was Sarankar. Sarankar is his Sanskrit name. Then his birthplace was Vipul. Then parents were Sumangal and Yashovati, and Bodhiruk was Pulya. Then Deepankar, he was a Brahmin. Birthplace was Ramavati Nagara. Parents were Sudev and Sumedhya, and the tree was Pippal. And he was in which incarnation of Gautam? Sumed, also Sumiti or Megh Manav, a rich Brahman. Kondinna or Kondinya was a Kshatriya. Ramavati Nagar. His parents were Sunanda and Sujata. He was a in the Salakalyan tree, and he was a Vijatvi, a Chakravarti in Chandavati Nagar of the Majjim Desham. Mangal, Then Mangal is also called Mangal in Sanskrit. Birthplace is Uttar Nagar or in the Majhi Madhes. And his father was Uttar and mother was Uttar. He and the tree was Anak, and he was incarnation Suruchi. Then Sanskrit and Pali name Suman, and class was Kshatriya. Birthplace was Mekhala Nagar. Parents were Sudasan and Shirima, and the tree was a Nag. And incarnation of Gautam, he is King Atulo or Naga. Then Revat or Sanskrit name Raivat. He was class Brahmin. Birthplace is Sudhanavanti Nagar. Parents were Vipal and Vipul. He was Bodhiruk was Anag, or the tree was Anag. Incarnation of Gautam, a Veda-based, Veda-versed Brahman. Then Pali name Shobhit, Sanskrit name Shobhit, class Kshatriya, birthplace Suddhamanagar. Parents were Suddhamnagar and mother was Suddhamnagar. Bodhiruk was Anag. Incarnation of Gautam Sujata Brahman in Ramavati. Then the Pali name was Annomadasi. Sanskrit name was Anavama Darshan. He was a Brahmin born in Chandavati Nagar. Parents were Yashav and Yashodhara. Bodhiruk was Arjun, and incarnation of Gautam was a Yaksha king. Then there was Paduma, or Sanskrit name called Padma. He was Kshatriya. He was born in Champe Nagar. Parents were Assam, father and mother Assam. Bodhiruk was Salal, and incarnation was a lion. Then also called Narad in Sanskrit, he was Kshatriya. Birthplace was Dhamwati Nagar. Parents were King Sudev and Anupama. Bodhiruk was Sonak, and incarnation of Gautam, a Tapasvi in Himalaya. Then Padamottar was his name in Sanskrit. Kshatriya, Hanswati Nagar. Parents were Anrul and Sujata. Bodhiruk was Salala, and incarnation of Gautam was a Jatilo and ascetic. Then Sumedha, his Sanskrit name is Sumedha. He was a Kshatriya born in Sudasnagar. Sumedh were his mother and father. Neep was his Bodhiruk, and he was a native of Uttaro as an incarnation of Gautam. Then Sujata Kshatriya, Sumangal Nagar. Parents were Uggat and Pabbavati, and Bodhiruk was Velu, and incarnation of Gautam was a Chakravartin. Piyadasi or Piyadarshan, he was a Brahman. His birthplace was Sudanna Nagar, and his parents were Sudata and Subadha, and his Bodhiruk was Kakudha, and incarnation of Gautam was Kassab, a Brahmin at Sirivatta Nagar. Then Arthadasi or Arthadasin, class Kshatriya, birthplace Sonanagar, parents Sagar and Sudasan, Bodhiruk Champa, incarnation of Gautam Sushin or Brahman. Dhammadasi, a Pali name in Sanskrit was Dharmadarshan. Class was Kshatriya. Birthplace was Surana Nagar. Parents were Surana and Sunanda. Bodhiruk was Bhim Bajal, and incarnation of Gautam was Indra, the teacher, the leader of the gods or the devas. Then there was Siddharth. Siddharth was a Brahmin born in Vibharan Nagar. Parents were Udeni and Subhasa. Bodhiruk was Kanihani, and incarnation of Gautam was Mangala Brahman. Then Tisya Kshatriya, Khemnagar. Parents were Janasando and Paduma. Bodhiruk was Asana. Incarnation of Gautam, King Sujata and Yashwati Nagar. Then Pusa or Pushya Kshatriya, Kasi, Jaysen and Sirimya. Bodhiruk was Amalak, and the incarnation was Vijitavi. Then Vipasi or Vipasyan was a Sanskrit name. Class was Kshatriya, Bandhuvati Nagar. Vipasin and Vipasi were father and mother. Patali was the Bodhiruk, and King Atul was the incarnation of Gautam. Sikhi or Sikhin Kshatriya, Arunavati Nagar. Then Arunavati and Papavati were the parents. Pundarik was the Bodhiruk, and the incarnation of Gautam was Arindavo and Paribhuta Nagar. Then Visabhu was a Sanskrit name, Kshatriya. Class and birthplace was Anupam Nagar. Parents were Supalit and Yashwati, and Bodhiruk was Sala or Shorya Robusta. Incarnation of Gautam was Sardarshan Sarbhavati Nagar in Sarbhavati Nagar. Then there was Kakusandha, or Sanskrit name was Krakuchand. Brahman, he was a Brahman. He was born in Khemvati Nagar. Parents Aggi Datta, the Purohit Brahman, and the king, the Khem and Vishakha. Bodhiruk was Shinsa, and incarnation of Gautam was King Khem. Then Konang Gaman, Sanskrit name was Kanak Muni. Class was Brahmin. Birthplace was Sobhavati Nagar. Parents were Yanna Datta and Brahman and Uttara. Bodhiruk was Udumbara, and incarnation of Gautam was King Prabhat of a mountain area in Mithila. Kashyap Pali name Sanskrit name was Kashyap. He was a Brahmin. His birthplace was Varanasi Nagar. Their parents were Brahmadatta, a Brahman, and Dhanvati. Bodhiruk was Nigrodh, Ficus bengalensis, and incarnation of God was Gautam was Jyotipal or Vapul. Then the current Buddha was Gautam, Sanskrit name Gautam, class Kshatriya, birthplace Lumbini, parents were King Suddhodhan and Maya, and Bodhiruk was Asat, Ficus filagiliosa, and incarnation of Gautam the Buddha. So he is the current Gautam Buddha which we know about, and he is the only important Buddha we need to remember right now as per as the course. But we also need to know about some other Buddhas that are being listed here. So Maitreya, Brahmin, Ketuvali, parents were Subrahma and Brahmavati and Naga. So we in detail we only need to know about the Gautam or Siddharth Gautam, that is the number 28, and rest all we just need to know the pointers about. Buddha Nikaya. Nikaya is a Pali word meaning volume. It is often used like in Sanskrit word agam to mean collection, assemblage, class or group in both Pali and Sanskrit. The Sutta Pitaka is broken up into 5 Nikayas. The Dig Nikaya, the collection of long discourses, or the Dirgha Nikaya, the collection of long discourses, the Majjhim or the Madhyam Nikaya, the collection of middle length discourses, the Samyukta Nikaya, the collection of thematically linked discourses. Samyukta means connected, inclusive. The Anguttara Nikaya, the gradual collection, discourses grouped by the content enumeration, and the Khuddaka Nikaya, the minor collection. Buddhist councils. There were 4 Buddhist councils held in ancient India and 2 in the modern world. The first Buddhist council is traditionally said to have been held in just after Buddha's parinirvana and presided over the Mahakashyap, one of his senior disciples, at a cave near Rajgriha, today's Rajgir, with the support of King Ajatshatu. Its objective was to preserve Buddha's sayings, suttas, and the monastic discipline or the rules Vinay. The suttas were recited by Ananda and the Vinay was recited by Upali. According to Charles Prebish, almost all scholars have questioned the historicity of the first council. It is important to note that there was no Abhidharma collection at this time. Western scholarship had suggested that Abhidharma texts were composed starting after 300 BCE because the difference in language and the content from the Sutta literature. All 6 of the surviving Vinay traditions contain accounts in whole or in part of the first and the second councils. The second Buddhist council. The historical records of the so-called Second Buddhist Council derive primarily from the canonical Vinayas of the various schools. While inevitably disagreeing on the point of details, they nevertheless agree that it was attended by 700 monks who met at Vaishali, and that the bhikkhus at Vaishali were accepting monetary donations, to which led to a controversy. The main issue of the council seems to have been related to Vinay, monastic disciples related to several loose practices by the monk at Vaishali. According to traditional sources, dispute over the monastic rules at the second council resulted in the first schism in the Sangh. However, various scholars do not think that schism occurred at this time and instead happened at a later date. Whatever the case, the first schism in the Sangha, which was often associated with the second council, is seen by scholars as most likely cause of a group of reformists called the Sthaviras, who wanted to add more values to Vinay to prevent them from a certain lax disciplinary practices. This may or may not have been directly related to a meeting at Vaishali. This issue over new Vinay rules eventually led to a split from the conservation majority called the Mahasamhikas, who rejected these rules. The views is supported by the Vinay texts themselves, as Vinays associated with the Sthaviras do not contain more rules than the Mahasamhika Vinay. The Mahasamhika Pratim Moksha has 67 rules in the Sakshadharma section, while the Theravada version had 75 rules. So 67 versus 75. The Mahasamhika Vinay also contains evidence for this, since they discuss how the Mahasamhika disagree with the Sthavir additions to the Vinay. Virtually all scholars agree that the second council was a historical event. There is no agreement, however, on the dating of the event, even if the pre or post Ashok. So the second council was one of the most important councils of the Buddhist councils. The third council during the reign of Ashok. In striking contrast to the uniform accounts of the second council, there are records of several possible third councils. These different accounts often function to authorize the founding of the one particular schools over other. However, they all at least agree that it took place in Patliputra under Emperor Ashoka's capital. According to the Theravada commentaries and chronicles, the third Buddhist council was convened by the modern king Ashoka at Patliputra, which is called today's Patna, under the leadership of the monk Mogaliputta Tisa. So under the leadership of the monk Mogaliputta Tisa was and the king Mauryan king Ashok. The council proceeded to recite the scriptures once more, adding the canon Mogaliput Tisa's own book Kathavatu. So the Mogaliputta Tisa's own book was Kathavatu, point to be noted, a discussion of various dissenting Buddhist views and the Vibhajivadin's response to them. According to the account, the third council also seems to lead to split between the Sarvastivad and the Vibhajavad schools on the issue of the existence of these times. His doctrine seems to have defended by certain Katyayani Putra, who is seen as the founder of Sarvastivad. The fourth council, there are two fourth council, the Theravada account and the Sarvastivada account. The Sarvastivada, by the time of the fourth Buddhist council, Buddhist has splintered into different schools in the regions of India. The southern Theravada school has a fourth Buddhist council in the first BC in Sri Lanka at Alu Vihar, Alok Lane. During the time of King Vatakamni Abai, the council was held in response to a year that harvests in Sri Lanka were particularly poor, and many Buddhist monks subsequently died of starvation. Because of the Pali canon was at that time an oral literature maintained in several recensions by Dhammabhankas, Dharma reciters, the surviving monks recognized the danger of not writing it down, so that even if some of the monks whose duty it was to study and remember parts of the canon or later generations died, the teaching would not be lost. Then the Sarvastivada says another fourth Buddhist council was held in the Sarvastivada tradition, said to have been convened by Kushan Emperor Kanishk in 78 AD at the Kundalban in Kashmir. Kundalban in Kashmir. It is said that Kanishka gathered 500 bhikkhus in Kashmir headed by Vasumitra to systemize the Sarvastivadin Abhidharma texts, and that were translated into early Prakrit vernacular languages such as the Gandhari and the Kharoshthi script into Sanskrit. It is said that during the council 300,000 verses over the 9 million statements were compiled, a process which took 12 years to complete. Although Sarvastivada are no longer extant as independent school, its tradition were inherited by Mahayana tradition. The later Professor Etienne Lemort, an eminent Buddhologist, held that Kanishka's council was fictitious. However, David Snellgrove, another eminent Buddhologist, considered Theravada account on the third council and Sarvastivada account on the fourth council equally tendentious, illustrating the uncertain veracity of these histories. The Theravada Buddhism Council in 1871, though it is not in the ancient India, it is in the modern world or the modern India. There are fifth and sixth Buddhist councils also. Theravada Buddhist Council in 1871, which was the fifth Buddhist council, another Buddhist council, this time presided by Theravada monks took place in the Mandalay, Burma in 1871 in the reign of King Mindon. The chief objective of this meeting was to recite all the teachings of the Buddha and examine them in the minute detail to see if any of them have been altered, distorted, or dropped. It was presided over by three elders, the Venerable Mahathera Jagar Bhivamans, the Venerable Narendra B. Dhaj, and the Venerable Mahathera Sumangal Sami in the company of the sum of 2,400 monks. Their joint Dhamma recitation lasted for 5 months. It was the work of council to approve the entire Tripitak, inscribed for the posterity on 779 marble slabs in the Burmese script before its recitation. This monumental task was done by the monks and many skilled craftsmen who, upon the completion of each slab, had them housed in beautiful miniature Pitak pagodas on the special site in the ground of the King Mindon's Kuthoda Pagoda at the foot of Mandalay Hill, where it was the so-called largest book in the world, stands to this day. This council is not generally recognized outside Burma. The Theravada Buddhist Council of 1954, the sixth Buddhist Council, which was called Kaba Ai in Yangon, formerly Rangoon, in 1954, 83 years after the fifth one was held in Mandalay. It was sponsored by Burmese government led by the then Prime Minister, the Honorable Yuno. He authorized the construction of Mahapasan Guhu, the Great Cave, an artificial cave very much like the India's Saptapani cave, where the first Buddhist council had been held. Upon its completion, the council met on 17 May 1954. So now let's come to the second topic, that is Upanishads. Some of the people during ancient India wanted to know like what happens to the life after death and why sacrifices need to be performed. Many of the thinkers left that there was something permanent in the universe that would last even after death. They named this as Atman or individual soul and Brahman or the universal soul. They believed that ultimately Brahman and Atman were one. Upanishads literally means approaching and sitting near. Most Upanishad thinkers were men, especially Brahmins and Rajas. Occasionally there is reference of women thinkers such as Gargi, who was famous for her learning and participated in the debates in the royal court. So we need to remember about Gargi. And poor people rarely took part in these discussions. One such exception is Satyakam Jabal, who was named after his mother, the slave woman Jabali. Many of the ideas of Upanishads were later developed by Shankaracharya and later on. List of Upanishads. There are between 180 to 200 Upanishads, but the best known are the 13 which are embedded in the four Vedas known as the Rig Veda, Samved, Yajurveda, and Atharvaved. These 13 Upanishads are Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, Aitreya Upanishad, Kaushitaki Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, Isha Upanishad, Savatra Upanishad, Mundak Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad, Maitri Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad. Now, about Panini. Panini was one of the most popular scholars who prepared the grammar for Sanskrit. He arranged the vowels and consonants in special order and then used these to create formulae like those in algebra. He used it to write down these rules in the language in the short formulae, about 3000 of them. Now come to the third topic, Jainism. Traditionally known as Jain Dharma in the ancient Indian religion, Jain Dharma traces its spiritual ideas and history throughout a succession of 24 leaders or Tirthankars. The main religious premises of the Jain Dharma are ahimsa, non-violence, anekantvad, many-sidedness, aparigraha, non-attachment, asceticism, abstinence from sensual pleasures. Devout Jains take five main vows: the ahimsa, non-violence; satya, truth; aste, not stealing; brahmacharya, sexual continence; and aparigraha, non-possessiveness. Jain Dharma is one of the world's oldest religions and have two major ancient sub-traditions, the Gambars and Svetambars, with different views on ascetic practices, gender, and which texts can be considered canonical. Major festivals include the Paryushan and the Das Lakshan, Ashtanik, Mahavir Jam Kalyanak, and Deepavali. Jainism is and forecast that universe evolves without violating the law of substantialism, auto-executed through the middle ground between the principles of parallelism and interactionism. Jainism is transitic religion holding that the universe was not created and will exist forever. It is believed to be independent, having no creator, governor, judge, or destroyer. In this, it is unlike the Abrahamic religions but similar to Buddhism. The Jainism perfect souls with body are called Arihant victors, and perfect souls without a body are called as Siddhas, the liberated souls. So we have a list of 24 Tirthankars here. So the first was Rishabh Nath Tirthankar. He is heaven before birth was Sarvati Sarvata Siddha. Sarvatha Siddha birthplace was Ayodhya Kailash Parvat. Parents were Nabhiraj and Marudevi. Complexion was golden. Symbol was bull or ox. Height was 1500 meter. The statue or his height was 1500 meter as given in the scriptures. Number of years lived 592.704 quintillion years. This is his age. Actually, this is not a human age, but this spiritual age in that form, the Rishabh Dev form. Tree, Vat, Banyan. Attendant spirits Gomukh and Chakreshwari. Male disciple and female disciple were Pundrik, Brahmi. Place of Nirvan was Ashtapat, and birth was 10 to the power 2 to 4 years ago. So now the years and the timeline is about in quintillion and 10 to power 224 in something like that, but it's not exactly the physical body age, but something the spiritual body age. The soul is said to be indestructible, but the form of that soul might be destructible. Then Tirthankar Ajit Nath, heaven before birth was Vijay Viman, birthplace was Ayodhya, Shikharji, parents were Jeet Shatru or by Vijay Mata, complexion was golden, symbol was elephant, height was 1350 meters, years lived was 508.032 quintillion years, tree was Shala tree, attendant spirits were Mahayaksha and Ajit Bala or Rohini, male and female disciples were Shimmasen and Falgu, place of Nirvan was Shikharji, and birth year was 5 into 10 to power 223 years ago. Then there was Sambhavnath Ori Magraivik, the heaven before birth. Birthplace consecration was Shravasti Shikharji. Parents were Jitari by Senamata. Complexion golden, symbol horse, height 1200 meter, numbers of year lived 423.360 quintillion years. Tree was Prayal. Attendant spirits were Trimukh and Duritari by Prajnapati. Male disciple and female disciple were Charu and Shyam. Place of Nirvana was Samit Sikhar. Birth was 2 into 10 to power 223 years ago. And Abhinandan Nath, then he was heaven before birth was Jayant Viman. The birthplace was Ayodhya Shikharji. Parents were Sambaraj by Siddharth. Complexion golden. Symbol monkey. 1050 meter height. 352.8 quintillion years. Then Priyangu was a tree. Then attendant spirits was Nayak and Kalika or Yaksheshwar and Vajra Shinkhal. Then male and female disciple was Vajranab and Ajit. Place of Nirvana was Shikharji and birthplace was 10 to power 23 years ago. Then Sumati Nath, heaven before birth was Jayant Viman. Birthplace Creation was Ayodhya Shikharji. Parents were Meghraj by Mangal. Complexion golden. Symbol was curlew and or red goose. Height was 900 meters. Numbers of year lived to 82.24 quintillion years. Tree was Shala and attendance spirits were Tumburu and Mahakali or the Purushadat, and male disciples. So female disciples was Charam Kashyapi. Place of Nirvana was Shikharji, and it was birth was 10 to part 22 years ago. Tirthankar Padmaprabha, heaven before birth was Ori Magrai Vek. Birthplace consecration was Kaushambi, Shamed, Shikharji. Parents were Siddhar and Sushim. Complexion was red. Symbol was lotus. Height was 750 meters. Number of years lived to 111.68 quintillion years. Tree was Chatra. And attendance spirits were Kusum and Shyam or Manovek or Mano Gupti. Male and female disciple were Pradyotan Rati, and place of Nirvana was Shikharji. It was birth was 10 to part to 21 years ago. Tirthankar, seventh Tirthankar was Supashwanath. And before birth was Madhyam Gaivik. Birth place was Varanasi Shikharji. Parents were Pratishtharaj by Prithvi. Complexion was golden emerald. Symbol was swastik. Height was 600 meter. Age numbers of year lived 141.12 quintillion years. Tree was Shirish. Attendance spirits were Matang and Sanatan, Sant or Varanadi and Kali. Male disciples were Vidarbha and Som, and places of Nirvana was Shikharji. Then birth was 10 to part to 20 years ago. Then they were Chandraprabha, Vijayant, Chandrapur, Mahar Senaraj by Lakshman. Complexion white, symbol moon. Height 450 meter. Years 70.56 quintillion years. And three Nag. Then attendance spirits Vijay or Bhikuti or Shyam or Vijay or Jwalamani. Male disciple, female disciple Dinda Suman. Places of Nirvan Shikharji. Birthplace 10 to part 219 years ago. Then in the same order it was Pushpadant. He was Anatadeva Lok. Then place was Kakanali or Shikharji. Parents were Shugrivraj and Namrani. Complexion white. Symbol crocodile. Height 300 meter. 14.112 quintillion years age. Then Trisali. Attendance spirits Ajit and Sutrak or Mahakali. Female disciple, male disciple and female disciple were Varahak and Varuni. Place of Nirvan Shikharji. Birth was 10 to part 218 years ago. Then Sheetal Nath Achyuta Devalok, his heaven. Birthplace was Bhadrapur or Bhadalipur. Parents were Didharath by Nanda. Complexion golden. Symbol Kalpvriksh of Ficus religiosa. Height was 270 meter, 7.056 quintillion years ago. Priyangu was a tree. Brahma and Ashok or Manvi were the attendant spirits. Male, female disciple were Nanda and Sujasa. Place of Nirvana Sikharji. It was 10 to part 217 years ago, the birth. Then 11th was Shreyan. It was Shreyansnath Achyuta Devalok. Singhapuri Shikhar was the birthplace. Parents were Vishnu Raj by Vishna. Then golden complexion rhinoceros was the symbol. 240 meter was the height. Numbers of lived 8.4 million years. Then the tree was Tanduk, Yakshet and Manavi or Ishwar and Gauri were the attendant spirits. Male and female disciples were Kashyap and Dharani. Place of Nirvana was Shikharji. Birth was 10 to part 212 years ago. 12. Vasu Priya Pujya. Heaven before birth was Pranatadev Lok. Birthplace consecration was Champapur. Parents were Vasu Pujya by Jaya. Complexion Raddi. Symbol male buffalo. Height 210 meters. Number of years lived 7.2 million years. 3 Patal. Attendance spirits Kumar and Chanda and Gandhari. Male disciple, female disciple the Shubhum Dharani. Place of Nirvan Champapur. Year birth was 4 into 10 to power 211 years ago. Then Vimalnath Mahasharadevlok. Birthplace was Kampilyapur. Parents were Kritvarma by Shyam. Complexion golden. Symbol pig. Height 180 meter. 6 million years ago lived. Jambu the tree. The Shanmukh and the Vidit or Vaidroti. The attendant spirits, male spirit and female spirit, Jas and Padma. Mandar and Dhara. And place of Nirvana was Shikharji. Birth was 1.6 into 10 to 211 years ago. Then there was Anantnath Pranat Dev Lok. He was living in Ayodhya. He was born Simhasen by Shuyas or Shujasa, but his parents' complexion was golden. Symbol was porcupine. Height was 150 meters. Number of years lived was 3 million years. Tree was Ashok. Attendant spirits of Patal, Anukush or Anantmati. Male disciple, female disciple Jas or Padma. Place of Nirvan Shikharji. Birth was 7 to 10 to part 210 years ago. Then there was Dharmanath. He was Born in Vijay Viman, he was heaven before birth was Vijay Viman. He was born in Ratnapuri Shikharji. Parents were Bhanuraj by Suvitra, complexion golden, symbol Vajra, height 135 meters, number of years lived to zero point 0.5 million years. Dandipan was a tree. Kinnar and Kandar or Mansi were the attendant spirits. Arish and Arthasiv were the male and female disciple. Samej Shikhar were the place of Nirvan 3 into 10 to power 210 years ago. Tirthankar Shantinath, heaven before birth was our Sarvatha Siddh. Birthplace was Gajpura Hastinapuri. Shikharji, parents were Vishwasena by Achirat, complexion golden, symbol deer, height 120 meters, 700,000 years he lived. Nandi was the tree. Garud or Nirvani and Kimpurush and Mansi were the attendant spirits. Chakriyuddha and Shuchi were the male and female disciples. Shikharji was the place of Nirvan, and the birth was 10 to power 194 years ago. Then 17th was Kuntanath. He was heaven before birth was Sarva Thasiddha. Birthplace was Gajpur or Hastinapuri. Parents were Suraj and Sri Rani were the and complexion was golden. Symbol were goat. Height was 105 meters, and number of years lived was 95,000 years. He was having Billak tree. Attendant spirits were Gandharval and Vijay. Male disciple and female disciple was Samba Damni. Place of Nirvan was Samet Shikhar. Birth was 10 to power 194 years ago. Then Aranath, Sarvatha Siddh, Gajpura, Hastinapur Shikharji, Sudarshan and Devrani, golden. Complexion fish or Pisces symbol, 90 meters height, 84,000 years. He lived. Tree were Amba. Attendance spirits was Yakshita and Dhan or Kendra and Ajit, male disciple and female disciple Kumbh and Rakshit. Place of Nirvan Shikharji, birth was 16,585,000 BCE. Mallinath, then heaven before birth Jayant Devlok, birthplace Mithila Shikharji, parents are Kumbharaj by Prabhavati, complexion blue, symbol Jar or Kalash, height 75 meter, number of years lived 56,000 years, tree is Ashok, attendance spirits are Kuber or Dharaparya or Aparajit. Male disciple, female disciple were Abhishek and Bandhumati. Places of Nirvana was Shikharji and birth was 6,584,980 BCE. Then it was Muni Suvrata. Heaven before birth was Aparajita Devlok. Then birthplace was Rajgriha. Then Sumit Raja and Padmavati were parents. Black complexion, tortoise symbol, height 60 meters, number of years like 30,000 years. Champak tree. Attendant spirits were Varun Naradatta or Barupani. Male disciple, female disciple were Malli Pushpavati, and place of Nirvana was Shikharji. Birth was 1,184,980 BCE. Then Neminath Pranaddev Lok, Mithila was his birthplace. Vijay Raj by Viprapani or her parents. Yellow complexion or emerald complexion. Symbol was blue water lily or blue lotus. Height was 45 meters. Number of years lived 10,000. Tree was Bakul. Attendant spirits was Bhikuti or Gandhari and Chamundi. And male or female disciple was Subha Anila. Place of Nirvana was Sikharji. 584,979 BC was the birth. Then Neminathji, Aparajit, Sauripur, Mount Girnar, Samudra Vijay and Siva Devi were the parents. Complexion black. Symbol conch. Height 30 meter. 1,000 years, the number of years lived. Vedas was tree. Attendance spirit was Gomit and Ambika or the Sarvahan and Kushmandin. Male disciple and female disciple Varadat Yakshadin. Place of Nirvan Mount Girnar. Birth was 3,228 BCE. Then there was Parshvanath Pranat Devlok. He was the heaven. Birthplace was Varanasi. Parent were Ashwar Senaraj by Vamdevi. Complexion blue. Symbol snake. Height 13.5 feet, numbers of year lived 100, and tree was Dhataki. Attendance spirits were Parshivaksh and Dhanendra and Padmavati. Male female disciples were Aryadin and Pushpa Pachud. Place of Nirvan Shikharji, and birth was 872 BCE. And the last is Mahavir, heaven before birth Pranat Devlok. Birthplace was Kundalpur or Pavapuri. Parents were Siddharth and Trishala. Complexion was yellow. Symbol was lion. Height was 6 feet. Number of years lived 72 years. Tree was teak. Attendance spirits were Matang and Siddhaika. Male and female disciple was Indrabhuti and Chandan Bhala. place of Nirvana was Pavapuri, birth was 599 BC. So the most important of them are the Rishabdev and the Mahavir. Other than that, we can read about the Neminath and Parshvanath. We need not remember all the 24 Tirthankars, but having pointers about them is good. Then the Zoroastrians of Iran, they belong to the ancient Iran. They worship the goddess god Ahura Mazda, who is a fire god. They have the language Avesta and a book called Jain Avesta. They have settled to the modern day Gujarat coast and Maharashtra and are the ancestors of Parsis. Famous Parsis in India are the Firoz Shah Mehta, Homi Jahangir Baba, Jamsetji Naseerwanji Tata, Ratan Nawal Tata, Cyrus Palonji Mistri. So hope you liked my lecture and hope you learned a lot for the competitive exams. Have a nice day. Thank you. Bye bye.